This is a really good one. Now, how's this for juxtaposition? Producers from The Guardian have accused the newspaper of institutional racism after they were brought in to create a podcast using The Guardian's founding father, who had links to the slave trade, surprise, surprise, John Edward Taylor, as a springboard to investigate the legacies of racism. After producers started delving into its history, the newspaper didn't want to hear any more about it, accusing them of bringing their own trauma baggage to work. Now, let me get this straight. A left-wing news organisation tries to hold themselves accountable for their own history. Once being told of said accountabilities, they do not want to be accountable. How surprising. So, joining me now to chat about this research is analyst and culture writer Dr. Rakib Eshan. Rakib, this is a really good one, isn't it?
Oh, I think what it shows, Laurence, is just identity politics eating itself alive in a way, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Guardian here trying to do a soul-searching exercise when it comes to its previous links with the slave trade and sympathy with the Confederacy. But now it's facing complaints over the fact that when it came to the orchestration of the project, they were looking to whitewash aspects of its own history. The fact that it wasn't very comfortable. There was the lack of transparency as well. So I think what you see is organisations who talk a great deal about anti-racism, when it comes to their own standards, it doesn't go quite according to plan, does it?
So why does hypocrisy seem to just completely go past these people on the far left? Why do they just not care about their own hypocrisy? They just go, it's trauma.
I think it's the possibility that they think that they're on the right side,
right,
in terms of morality. And I think that blinds them to their own hypocrisies when it comes to matters of race and equality. And I think that if The Guardian was a truly anti-racist institution, they would conduct a project like this in a transparent manner. And they'd also treat their ethnically diverse workforce in a way that they felt like there was a sense of belonging and they were being supported by those high up in the organisation. So what it shows that I think institutions such as The Guardian, they're very good at accusing other organisations of failing to live up to their anti-racist expectations. But I think that a serious period of introspection is needed.
And what would your advice be to the Guardian now? You'd say an open, transparent, throw open all the books, let everybody know, make a truthful podcast about yourselves, be critical about yourselves, and show to the world that we don't just laugh at you when your newsfeed comes past.
Well, if you're an institution that wants to be a standard bearer when it comes to anti-racist activity, you have to be honest about your own history. And the reality of the matter is The Guardian, numerous times, it's talked about a variety of institutions, their links to the slave trade, how they've sympathised with, problematic regimes in the past. But if you're going to do that, then you have to have very strong standards when it comes to your own credentials on those fronts.
Should they be paying Femi reparations?
I think that's a very difficult question to answer, truth be told. I think that when you're looking at these kind of issues, I'll be honest, I think that we can definitely talk about the slave trade, how institutions can atone for their past. I know that the Church of England have opened up a fund to help groups which have been, suffering
100 million quid, where did that come from?
I would have thought that they would have put their parishes and congregations first. And the irony is, Laurence, is that you have parts of London where you have ethnic minority communities that are stumping up the cash to renovate churches. So I think they could do with more support from the Church of England on that front. But I do think that there's certainly a debate to be had where you have organisations, they like to lecture others on anti-racism. When it comes to their own credentials on that front, they're certainly lacking.
But it really irritates and upsets people. We saw what they did with Black Boys Lane and they renamed it whatever they've renamed it. And within a day, someone's gone and spray-painted it out. They put in their windows, Black Boys Lane. There's obviously a very overwhelming public reaction not to obliterate history and not to judge the past, just to allow it to be. Talk about it. But why do the media and this sort of very sort of top-end media elite class think that it's a fine thing to do this Guardianista stuff and this renaming of Black Boys Lane and all this woke rubbish when the public hate it?
Well, I think that we have a great many number of white saviours with a very serious sort of ultra-liberal complex where they feel like they need to be offended on the behalf of ethnic and racial minorities. It's very interesting when you talk about that Black Boy Lane episode. Hardly any black British people in that particular area complained about it. So I think that there's certainly something to be said about history is inherently very complicated. And I think at the moment what you're seeing people who are trying to reduce Britain's history into something which is particularly unsavoury. Now, of course, there's certain elements of our history which was unsavoury. There are also elements of our history which we should celebrate. For example, defeating fascism. And in the fact that we are now, in my view, for all our problems, we are one of the most successful multiracial democracies in the world. When it comes to providing protections, fighting discrimination on the grounds of race, ethnicity and religion, it might be controversial for some people to understand, but Brexit Britain is miles ahead of other EU member states, such as France, Germany and the Netherlands, when it comes to providing those protections. So I think that we just need a more all-encompassing debate which is fairer and understands the nuances of the issues surrounding race.
And the irony is, if we still had a big empire and colony, these white saviour liberals, second sons of, half-successful people, would have been sent over there to run various parts of the colony and been the most racist people on earth anyway.
Absolutely.
So it's a complete embarrassment. What's next? Do we rename White City?
Well, I think there's many people that are very...
I wanted to rename it. I find it offensive.
There are some people who are insecure in their middle-class privilege. Just accept the fact that you're privileged, that you're middle-class. If you care about fairness and justice, you can do that. But don't go over the top and don't be patronising and condescending towards ethnic minorities.
It's called racism, isn't it?
Well, I think it's something that it needs to be talked about a lot more, in a way. And I think that when you're talking about the empire, of course, there's numerous brutal episodes associated with the British Empire. But I tell you this, the Commonwealth of Nations shows that Britain learnt from its mistakes, and what it's done is you have that voluntary association of nations, and the late Queen contributed a great deal in terms of building alliances through the Commonwealth. And now you have other countries which are colonised by other former European powers. You had Togo and Gabon. They were part of the French Empire, gained independence from France. They're now members of the Commonwealth. And I think that shows that Britain is now a well-respected member of the post-colonial international community.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's worth having a bit of optimism about the future of this country rather than berating ourselves all the time.
I agree.
Thank you so much, Rakib Eshan. We did contact The Guardian, and a spokesman said, "We are concerned that some former colleagues and contributors have not had a good experience working with us, but we are disappointed they have chosen to write a partial reflection of their time at The Guardian. We always take concerns raised with us seriously, and we acted immediately to respond to the individuals, including by offering a mediation process, which took place with a mediator chosen by the individuals themselves." Thank you. Thank you very much. That was Dr. Rakib Eshan, the research analyst and culture writer. Just to note, we did contact the producers who spoke out, but they did not reply.